What's going on, y'all? Look, Marcel Benson, investor, entrepreneur, creative. Look, um, I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you're having, a beautiful day. Um, I hope that you are on the journey to your desired reality. Um, I hope that any frustrations that you encounter, you're gaining some sort of understanding from it, and it's not leading to you quitting, but leading to you pivoting and making adjustments to continue, right? I want to send you all positive energy, love, and light. And I just really want you to know that um, whatever it is that you're working towards, it is unfolding. And if it's real in your mind, it's absolutely, you know, able to be real in the physical. All right, so I just wanted to start with that. Um, yeah, so today I want to talk about the connection that I'm noticing between food and behavior. And I want y'all to understand, like, I've done a lot of like research. I do the way I spend my time is so different. I spend a lot of time just like reading, studying a myriad of things. Right, it's not just in my wheelhouse of like finance or watches or whatever. Like I'm always reading up on a ton of things, but primarily my biggest focus has been health lately because as I've had a ill parent, and it's like you don't have to have somebody get sick to start doing this, but this has gotten me extremely locked into I don't even want to call it prevention, right? But I want to just call it like you know being proactive, right? Really just getting clear on the best way to live and taking um, appropriate action and not just letting things that have happened around me like be in vain, right? So I've been spending a lot of time just like observing my own life, observing, my own journey with eating and all of this stuff, right? Like if you live in the, United States of America, for sure I can speak for, you have access to to some pretty bad food. You have limited access to good food, and there's a lot of poison out there, right? And majority of this country, in some way or another, is just like, let's just call it what it is, addicted, right? We don't have poor habits. We don't have bad habits. We are addicted, right? I'm pretty sure if you are not consciously and intentionally eating, then you are being driven by some version of addiction when it comes to food, right? Sugar is in everything. There's additives and natural flavors, which is, some of the worst things you could ever imagine going into our bodies every single day. And I just decided that, like, I found myself one day realizing, like, oh, there must be something going on inside me because what I desire and what I say I want, I'm not in alignment with. So I'm like, if I'm not in alignment with something, there has to be another entity, whether that's the lower me or some sort of parasitic entity that is pulling the strings. There were times where I found myself like, on a specific, you know, I don't want to call it diet, but I'm saying I'm eating like this, right? And then I found myself like going against that and not even realizing it. Just like it was such a natural thing to like, okay, if I'm going here, I'm gonna get this, and then I'm gonna get this, and then just before you know it, just like completely being out of alignment with what it is that I know to be true from what I've read, from what I've learned, from what I've experienced. So I got to a point where I was just like, you know what, I'm just done. Like I am going to seek the truth, and I'm going to spend my life getting to the truest way that we are supposed to eat so that I can get as close to the purest version of a human as possible. I will never be perfect and never claim to be, but I am returning to who I truly am. I'm returning to my highest self, and I know that that starts with eating. Let me just kind of give you guys a rundown of what I've observed since I've started just eating single ingredient foods, no meat, and primarily fruits. Now I'm not all fruit, right? I'm not a full fruitarian yet, but from what I've learned from eating majority fruits with some, like cooked plant-based food and stuff like that, is that I feel myself returning to my default settings, the love that I felt in my heart when I was a kid, the excitement that I felt in my heart when I was a kid, the creativity that I had, the feeling like I could do anything, the wanting to explore, the curiosity, the empathy, the compassion, all of those things that I believe are default human settings. I find myself returning to them. I have more patience, like more love in my heart and in my eyes. You know, a strength and a softness. The divine masculine and feminine. All these things are just starting to like bubble up to the surface and just radiate and emanate in everything that I do. And I found that during the times where I wasn't intentionally eating and consciously eating, the opposite was in place. Like I was a little less patient. I was a little judgmental. I was, all the things that are wrong with the world, right? So when we talk about like self-sabotaging, and we talk about, why things are not happening for us the way that we desire, and why we're not getting, what we want out of life, I think that it's time that we start making the association with food, right? I think that when we're choosing who we want to associate with, we need to start paying attention to like, what they're eating, right? The same way we do this for every other aspect of our lives, it's like the foundational aspect, which is the information that we get, is something that we really need to be intentional about, right? So let's just take ourselves out of this position for a second and put ourselves in the position of, say I'm the leader of a nation that I want to control. I'm the leader of a globe that I want to control, and I understand how it works and I understand the truth about it. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to deploy lies. I'm going to start to contaminate the very things that are the most important, the most significant. See, the way that I've been looking at food lately is that it's consciousness, right? It's pure consciousness. Air, water, and food are nothing but pure consciousness, another extension of us. But it's sustenance and information that we need to be operating at our full capacity. So when we start to throw things in the mix that are not pure consciousness, or that are dead, or that are that had a very tough struggle at the end of the life, that consciousness and energy is being transferred to us, which is why we see so much madness taking place in the world, so much energy that we can't quite understand taking place in the world. And that's just meat, right? But when you get to the process stuff is even more of a beast than meat, because at least the meat has some sort of some sort of energy that came from from plant. But when we talk about process, we're talking about chemicals that are creating parasites and entities that we can't even explain, that are pulling the strings inside of us. And these are things that you can go and research on your own. You don't got to just take my word for it. So I just want to encourage you guys to like seek truth, seek getting back to your human default. Figure out what the truth is in each aspect of life. Study universal truths, study universal principles, study different religions, not necessarily to adopt that religion, but to see the consistency of truth that is within all of them. All right, like this journey, man, is one that at times can feel lonely, But I never want you to let lonely or um, the unknown, right? Like I never want you to let the unknown or losing your identity stop you from going on the journey that you need to be going on. You know what I mean? Like a lot of times we don't do what we know is best for us because we haven't been spending our lives doing what's best for us. So everybody that we kind of like accumulated as, friends and connections along the way, we fear like losing that or isolating ourselves from that. We might have been in conversation with somebody that was talking about somebody that decided to isolate and we didn't like the way that felt. You know what I mean? So we're being taught how to behave from interactions from people who are not all the way set at their their natural human default settings. So don't let that discourage you from getting back to it. Because here's a beautiful thing about what happens when you get back to that human default setting. It doesn't happen like you think it does. You don't got to just drop everybody like dramatically like we think it is. When things are happening from the inside out, your world changes. So what you'll notice is that people will start changing in your orbit, right? The stronger your energy is, people will start to feel that and not even know why they're lighter and behaving in a much better way when they're around you. All right, keep it going. It's always love over here. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.